welcome back. This one is really cool. I feel really privileged to have this one as my first conversation. I had the privilege of speaking to Jack Oliver. Jack owns a company in the Lake District called Adventure in UK. A really, really good guiding company. And he has worked really hard at that to create the lifestyle that he has now, which is focused on running and smashing records. So he smashed the winter Bob Graham round record in 2022, in January 2022. That's now been broken again by somebody else who I hope to maybe talk to in the future on here as well. And then Jack went on to do the Steve Parr round, which is a much bigger round than the Bob Graham round. And he smashed the winter record for the Steve Parr round. Now, the Steve Parr round is a 120-mile loop, and the amount of ascent is just ridiculous. So it was really good to speak to Jack about all the experience going through that round. It was really good. We also touched on the Bob Graham round. We touched a little bit on nutrition. We delve into how he felt after the event. We talk about Jack and his partner and their relationship and how the dynamic works between them, which is a fascination for me. It's something that I'm fascinated with, because whenever I see these guys and women, they always seem to have like a supportive man behind them, and the men always seem to have a supportive woman behind them. And so it intrigues me, it fascinates me how the dynamic of those relationships works, because the amount of training that they put in and the amount of pain that they go through. I think I call it self-harm in the actual podcast, but yeah, the amount that they put themselves through, and their partners are there helping them to do it. So I find that fascinating. But most importantly, Jack talks a lot about the community, and he keeps giving credit to the people who helped him out. And that for me was, it was really important aspect of the whole chat. So I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to let you listen to Jack talk us through his experiences. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
So give us a bit of your backstory. Where you're from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Telford, Shropshire, if you know it. Pretty flat. No, it's not flat, but it's definitely not as uphill as here. Went travelling, so went to like Nepal, which was pretty cool. And then I worked in like Dubai and places like that. I didn't really start running until probably about 8 or 9 years ago, properly anyway. And then moved to the lakes, and just from there everything spiraled out of control. So I worked at an outdoor centre in Dubai, which was awesome and I loved, and that's probably where I learned certainly like all of the soft skills of being an instructor, maybe not so much like the hard skills. And then I came back from working in like Dubai and spent just over sort of 2 years just there doing that, which was awesome. I got an amazing opportunity to go and like travel the world and see some epic places and do some amazing stuff with some amazing people, and very lucky for that. And then I got a job at an education centre in Scotland, and it's probably from there that like things started to like step up a little bit. I started to like go running a bit more and took that sort of thing sort of not necessarily seriously, but I think I set a career path for myself. I wanted to go and do my MCI, wanted to go and do like my winter qualifications, and
so MCI is like the equivalent of MIA.
Yeah, it's just a new version of an MIA. Yeah.
So to get that
updated,
to get that, you have to get your ML, your mountain leader summer qualification, and then you can go straight for that.
No, so trying to remember what the prerequisite for this now is. So they're quite stringent. Maybe not stringent is probably not the right word, but they're very sort of like specific about what they're looking for. So you've got to go and do like 20 odd days as a mountain leader, which is relative. Anyone who works in the outdoors professionally, generally that's quite easy to do, but it's all of the other bits. So they're looking for quite a lot of depth of experience of climbing across the UK and a little bit of overseas as well. So places like the Alps that are generally sort of not necessarily looked for, but are, you know, you would want to see that into your logbook. So it's things like, you know, mountain crags up to sort of the S4C, but most MIAs will probably be climbing harder than that grade, and there'll be a massive amount of experience. So it'll be things like sea cliffs in Wales, mountain crags of the lakes, to like remote places in Scotland. Do you know, Hoy, for example, was probably like a sort of pinnacle point for me, and some of like the bigger crags in like Scotland, where there's more of a craft to get to those areas than it would be like
the Cooling Ridge.
Yeah, Cooling Ridge and those sort of like, the back of like Blather and these really remote sort of difficult places to get to, where like there's a skill set to get to it. And so you're required to do, I think it's like 20 VS4Cs, but generally most people will have a significant amount more. I think it took me about, like from like start to sort of like start of me pursuing it to my training, I think it was like 2 years. Do you know? So
you basically, you're rock climbing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Navving in, rock climbing, navving out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as well, like a lot of winter stuff, I think you're looking for like a real depth of experience in terms of being on the hill. Do you know, like you can go and do VS4C on the roadside. You could probably go and do 20 routes in a weekend, really, or 2 weekends or whatever. In, you know, if you're climbing well, quite easily. But it's having that like ticking off. I don't like that word, ticking off, but going and pursuing like amazing routes in amazing places and like that are really inspiring. You know, Cloggy in Wales again for another sort of great example. You know, of a iconic mountain crag that you'd probably want to go to.
Somewhere that's not just. Not everybody can get there.
Yeah, 100%. There's a real skill, isn't there? Like you've got a nav, you've got a plan. You know, going to those sort of places, it's going to need to be dry, and there's loads of other factors as well. And it's remote and it's wild. And it's,
the weather's a big one, eh?
Yeah, massive.
And also, like I suppose when you're climbing big routes like that, seepage, like
everything. Yeah, you're taking into all that into account, aren't you? Do you know, like, and even just like little things. I think, you know, like. If you're going roadside, for example, you maybe are going to carry loads of other stuff, but actually if you're going to somewhere like, you know, Scarfell or the Ben or, you know, Skye, anywhere of those like remote crags, and you have to really think about what you're carrying.
So this is like a nice little sort of link over to when you're doing things like that, obviously there's gear, and that gear's metal.
Yeah.
Like you've got your cams, your friends that you place in the rock. You've got your hexes, your nuts. Like these are all metal pieces of gear. You've got your harness. You've got a big rope, maybe 2.
Yeah.
You've got slings. You're carrying all this gear. So then what I've noticed with a lot of MCIs now, MCIs or MIAs back in the day, I feel old. Is like, isn't it? Like it's all changing.
Feels weird, doesn't it, saying like that?
Is that they are like quite methodical engineering type brains who like to take the time out to the crag, and then but now you're smashing running records and stuff. So it's like, where does that crossover come from? Right, I want to get out there and I've got to carry all this gear to I'm now going to sacrifice carrying that gear to running. Where's the moment where you go, I want to run?
It's hard. So like, I think some of the best days I've had here in the lakes have been like where I've ran into like Esk, and then we've climbed a route on Esk Buttress, which is a remote place, you know, just underneath Scarfell. And then run back, and like we and James would like make a laugh of that. We would try and see if we could run in half the time that the book would suggest. So the book might say 4 hours, I think it is, or 3 hours, and we try and run. So there is that like how obviously, because if you don't take something on the crag when it's like that, then you kind of haven't got it. So like it's like how comfortable are you going without that big cam, knowing that you might have to place it? And like I think for me that's also part of the adventure, is like, you know, if it's going to rain, for example, like, do you risk it and not take the waterproofs in the hope that you're going to move faster? Or do you think, well, maybe and that's part of, I guess that's like, you know, it's down to the individual in terms of like how comfortable they are with that. Personally, for me, like, I'm not an adrenaline junkie completely from it. I'm probably more of an adrenaline phobic than anything. But like, it's having that like, it's having that ability to make that decision, which I think is amazing. You know, like
So basically, what I'm getting from that is you're looking at the route, you're analysing the route. You know exactly what gear you need for that route.
Yeah.
And then you're going, oh, I can do, like, I could maybe skip out those bits of gear.
Yeah, for sure.
Run the rope out a little bit.
Yeah.
I know I can climb that easy.
For sure.
And then you're looking at the weather and you're taking it all into consideration, and then you're making like a decision.
Yeah.
An executive decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you agree it with your climbing buddy.
Yeah.
And then you go and you try and smash it out.
Absolutely. And it's like, I think it's like a very, like, it's not alpine, but it's a very different way from like British climbing. Is like, let's take fucking everything and then let's just never use any of it. And then we're going to walk it in and walk it out. And then we're going to wonder why it's, whereas like, you know, I spent a bit of time in the Alps last year, which was epic. And like, I watched how these guys are doing things, and they're not taking anything that doesn't need to be done. And like, I got chatting to a French guide, and he'd just climbed some route really amazingly. And the really interesting thing was that they were just clipping alternative bolts, and then it occurred to me that actually they were just carrying half the amount of bolts that they needed, and it was to do with weight. They were reducing the weight, which is all. And I'm not suggesting that we should all go out and start taking, you know, but it's how can you, like, if you want to move efficiently in the hills, then like you can't do that with big pack.
No, I think that's an important thing. Is like anybody who's starting out climbing should definitely take more. Yeah,
I did Jack's Rate with a full climbing rack.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like full, like didn't even use anything, but we went up Jack's Rate because I had no idea what it was with a full climbing rack.
Yeah.
Do you know? Like,
yeah.
Full climbing rack on Strava Edge the first time I did it.
And Jack's Rake is like a pretty easy scramble. Like there's exposed bits on 100%. It, but it's easy. Like you can do it without gear.
I very rarely. I think I've never used a rope on it. A sling, but yeah. So I think like maybe if you are listening to this and you're quite new, then maybe err on the side of let's take it and not need it, and need it and not take it, if that makes sense.
I think it's just going back to what you said before of like, you know the route very well.
Yeah, 100%.
You've climbed it, you know what you're doing, you know the route in, you know the route out. It's how quick can we now do this? It's like 100%. You're refining it and playing with it.
Like, it's having that, like, you know, that years of knowledge of behind you that maybe help to make that decision. And equally, it's not a decision I make on my own. Like, if I'm going out with someone, it's not like I'm going, hey, surprise, I'm not taking a waterproof jacket today. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I just didn't bring my
I just didn't bring it. It's like, hey, what do you know? It's a joint decision, you know. And like, and as always, like there's lots of variables at play, and I think that you have to look at all of those very sort of like, you know, realistically. I mean, if there's a high chance that the weather, you know, we're just using the rain as the example. If it looks like it's a high chance it's going to rain, you're going to take your jacket. Do you know what I mean? Or you're going to get really wet and cold, and like, you know.
Or you're going to do your plan B. You're not going to go and climb that route.
You're going to go somewhere else or whatever. So, it's for me that's probably like the essence of like being in the mountains. For me, is like running or climbing for that matter, like as efficiently as possible. Like, and you know, I'm no sort of Killian and far from it. But like, yeah, it's being able to move through that environment, you know, as efficiently as possible. And like, yeah,
which I suppose that sort of loops nicely into, or threads nicely into, running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, that's those skills that you're learning in climbing. I know there's a lot of gear involved, but I suppose there's less gear involved in running, but it's more to do with timing, pacing, nutrition.
Sure. Yeah.
And so you're just like, I suppose, taking one model and then just applying it to.
Yeah, for me, it's probably just like another amazing experience in the hills. So whether I'm walking in with a client, or like whether I'm running in with a client, or whether I'm just running on myself, it's just another transferable skill set, isn't it? Nav is nav. Like if I'm running it, the nav's still the same, and if I'm walking it, it's exactly the same. Do you know, it's just another way of being in the hills for me. And I
think there's just on that note, there's like something really, it's like the only way to describe it is something really beautiful about when you've spent loads of time in one area.
Yeah.
So like your school in the Lake District. So you spend lots of time in that area. All of a sudden, you start to know. It's like if you said to me, "Where's the post office?" in Carlisle.
Yeah,
I would be like, I'd be all like ums and ahs. But if you said to me, "How do I get to sort of Great End from Seathwaite?" I can tell you, like, I can tell you the rocks, I can tell you the streams, I know exactly where to go. And there's something really beautiful about knowing the mountain environment like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And being able to, like, run around it. Like, you're a climber, so, like, knowing where the crags are, knowing where the roots are.
Yeah, that just being able to, like, just to be able to know it so in depth that you know the best way to go from A to B. Do you know, like...
And then I suppose then that brings us nicely onto the Bob Graham round.
Yeah.
So you did the winter round in 2022?
January last year. So what's that? Yeah, January last year. So winter BG, which was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did that you broke the record, didn't you?
Yeah, so I broke the previous... It was anti-clockwise, so I think that's probably worth just mentioning. Like, so it was a winter anti-clockwise record, which is awesome. I don't know what the fastest time for the clockwise round is actually at the moment. I think
so. Just to cut in, the clockwise starts in Keswick, and it starts off going up like
Skiddaw, the classic Bob Graham route.
And anti-clockwise actually you still started in Keswick.
Still started in Keswick, but
you start on Robinson,
Hinescarf, Dalehead. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So what would be leg 5 clockwise? The final leg was my first leg, if that makes sense.
And the difference is that when you go anti-clockwise like you did, you get all the gnarly descents and ascents out the way pretty quick, and then you're onto the Helvellyn range, which is pretty nice, and then the Northern Fells.
It was a real big question actually when I did the round. Everyone asked why did I go anti-clockwise, and there's lots of factors. There's probably not actually. The only thing for me is that I just wanted to be... Firstly, I don't like stupid o'clock early start, so I was never going to start at 10 o'clock in the afternoon or in the evening, because I would never have slept during the day, and I know myself well enough to know that I wouldn't have. So I started at 6, which is I think is a pretty... During the summer, it's very rare that people start that early. But the idea being that I'd be past the technical running ground, which is like Bowfell and like the Crinkles, or not Crinkles, but Bowfell, the Esk, and sort of down into like Rossett and that sort of area before it got dark. So that was like the biggest factor for me, was I want to utilise as much rest as possible, but equally I want to pass this technical ground before it gets dark, because otherwise... Whereas I think if I'd done it the other way round, I would have probably been hitting Bowfell quite late in the evening, and I think that could have... would have slowed me down quite a lot.
And then you've got Scarfell.
Yeah, so you've got that massive flipping, all those rocks and stuff at night, and it would have been real. And there's, my winter round, I was really fortunate. It was definitely cold, but there wasn't a lot of snow and there wasn't a huge amount of ice. But it was definitely a winter round, it was certainly cold enough anyway. But I wouldn't have wanted to be on there in the dark.
But you can't, at the end of the day, you're doing it in January, it's winter.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Deep winter.
It's
like, you can't, you just, it's like almost like God was on your side.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So, yeah, anti-clockwise BG, which was wicked, and that was like 21, 26, 27, something like that. It was around about that. So, and then I think for me that was really good. I really enjoyed it, and since then there's been several like winter sort of pro athletes who've done similar sort of times around that mark as well. So I guess
does your record still stand, or has it been?
So James did, a really good mate James Gibson, he did a winter solo unsupported anti-clockwise. Bloody hell, that's quite a mouthful, isn't it? A winter solo unsupported winter anti-clockwise BG. So because mine was supported, I feel like mine would still count, and he got about 2 minutes quicker than me. I think it was about 20.
Unsupported?
Yeah, 21:27 he did it, solo unsupported. Wow. And he did that in December this year. But he had probably the most amazing weather. We had that massive freeze in December where it was bone dry, but everything was freezing.
Hang on, so he did it completely solo?
Yeah, packed his bags, set off at sort of I don't know, whenever it was 10 o'clock.
So how did it, right, I'm just gonna, because people, I need to remember people are listening. So we have there's three categories. supported. There's self-supported, and there's unsupported.
Solo unsupported, yeah.
So supported is where you can just have as much help as you want. Like you can have literally people feeding you nutrition
the whole way around. Yeah, that's generally the way it's normally done, isn't it? Like Bob's are normally done that way.
That's where the quickest records, like when Killian came over and smashed the
Killian, Jack, they've had
all support.
Yeah, massive amounts of people involved. Yeah.
And then self-supported is where you can stash food along the way.
Yeah,
and you could stop at a shop. You can you can, as long as you're doing it alone.
Yeah. So that's solo self-supported.
And then solo unsupported is where you're not allowed to walk with anyone. You're not allowed any help at all. You're not allowed to stash food. You have to start with everything.
Yeah.
And you have to finish with everything. So you're not even allowed to like drop trash or, but you can fill your water up out of streams.
Yeah, things like that, obviously. And I think as well, so I think the FRA would agreed that you're allowed to inform someone of where you are, because obviously you're talking about running on the hills in winter. So there was this sort of like agreement that amongst sort of the community, the runners, that, you know, like actually just, you know, messaging someone and saying, hey, look, I'm at the time is whatever, I'm at Wasdale. That's more of a safety thing. Do you know what I mean? I think that's acceptable. Do you know what I mean? Because people just need to know where you are. It's winter, so it's pretty impressive what he did, to be fair to him.
Yeah, that is
really, really impressive.
That's something else.
And he's a good friend, so I've been really lucky over the years to like.
So you currently hold the supported winter round.
Yeah. And James
record, and James has got the unsupported winter round record.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
You're just starting to grab these records, you two.
I'm just getting on this like fucking rampage of chasing James's records.
I'm gonna take your record. Sweet. So then the last one you did, the last challenge.
Yeah, the big one
was the Steve Parr. This one for me. This one speaks to me more because the Bob Graham, like if you go and you stand outside the round or at the Moot Hall in Keswick in like July, it's like going to Carlisle train station.
Yeah,
like people are clapping somebody out, and they're clapping somebody in. It's like they're constantly going. But the Steve Parr round, is it only 10 people have ever done?
Yeah,
so
it's 10 people who've done the round, which is pretty cool.
And you did it in winter.
Yeah.
Supported.
Completely supported.
And you did it in 47
hours and 9 minutes, something like that. Yeah, 47:09 it was.
Which is the new winter record.
Which may have belonged to James beforehand. So
sweet.
Yeah. So just to clarify, James is like a really good friend, and I'm sure he won't mind me of saying that. But so
it's cool, man. It's cool
he came out and helped out quite a lot. But yeah, so there's 10 people to have done the round. There's 2 people to have ever done them in winter. James being one, he did that. I want to say like 3 years ago or something like that. Yeah. And then and then obviously me. 3 months ago, whatever it is, 2 months ago. So, which is pretty sweet.
I think that's a good thing to touch on. Is that's what I really love about the running community.
Yeah,
is that although that's James's record, he was like one of the most integral parts of your round. Yeah. Like he really, really helped you to get round and beat his record, and that seems to be like. It's like when Killian came over to do the Bob Graham round, he basically went to Billy Bland and was like, do you mind?
Yeah, can I have your permission?
And he was like, yeah, go for it. For sure. And then all the fell runners from the lakes just flocked to help him to get round.
Like, you know, there is that community spirit. And like, I feel like if you're helping on these rounds and someone doesn't do it, you kind of nearly blame yourself a little bit. Do you know, you're like, well, could I have done something better? Could we have pushed them harder? Do you know, like... And I've supported on Bobs and stuff like that over the years where they haven't, and I'm like, oh fuck me, they left me and they were okay. So what went wrong? Do you know? And like you sort of not really blaming yourself so much, but like there's just that community feeling is solid. Do you know? Like like you know when you're going to support around that like you're part of like such a bigger picture, and I think runners take it quite seriously. Like, you know,
it's almost like a family type
100%.
thing.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like you phone your dad to I phone my dad to complain down the phone at him
Yeah,
about life
right,
or whatever.
yeah.
And it's like that's what's going on in the running world. It's like, yeah, you feel like you're supporting each other to do it, which is what you and James are doing. Like,
yeah, we sort of egg each other on a little bit, I think, and like, you know, I've got, you know, he's, you know, one of them, you know, several friends who are like just doing amazing things at the moment, but like we're all sort of like, I would say it's like really proactively like encouraging, and like, you know, you're wanting people to do well, and like, you know, James did like 40k, 30 odd k with me across, you know, some of like in the middle of the night of all places. You know, he met me on Rhinos and sort of like came out and helped out, and yeah, like you say, fully aware that I was probably like, for me, it's not about records and times, it's just about the journey and like that ability to like really push myself. And like James, you know, probably knew that realistically I was going to do that, but you want to support that person, and if I was in his shoes, I'd do exactly the same.
Well, you do,
yeah,
you do the
100%,
same.
you know. So like,
so with that in mind, like, what was the journey like on the Steve Parr round? Because that is so it's 100. Is it 120 mile?
14 or something like that. Yeah, it's about 190k, so whatever that is in miles, and then it's roughly 14,000 meters of ascent. So
14,000 meters.
Yeah.
So that's
roughly speaking. I
in
think it was
foot.
like
That's
6 meters less than it was like on my Strava. It came through at like 13,994. So I'm sure people can let me off the 6 meters or whatever it was.
yeah.
I don't know what that is in foot. I've got no clue.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's like
it's a lot.
I don't know, 40,000 or something like that. 35, 40,000. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, it's big. It goes over. So it goes over all of the peaks in the lakes that are over 2,500 foot, so 730 odd meters.
Okay.
So there's 61 of them. So it's it's actually it's just a massive day out, 2 days out.
Yeah,
which is pretty sick.
So you set off on. It's a winter round again.
Yeah.
So you did this in January. This is a year after you'd done the Bob Gray.
Pretty much a year to the day, actually. Funny enough, like, or a year to the weekend, anyway. Yeah, so it's like a year to the day. Set off at 6 again.
Did you set off from the Moot Hall?
Set off from Moot Hall, yeah. So didn't touch Moot Hall because it's like a bad omen. So just set off from Moot Hall.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, there's this thing. I didn't know this until I think it was like Paul Wilson was like, "Oh, you don't touch Moot Hall. Like, you can stand near it." Like,
so
yeah.
Moot Hall is
it's like a church thing in the middle of Keswick. I don't
it's
know
like the town hall, isn't it, of Keswick?
Yeah.
And it's like got this big clock. It's right in the centre of the town, and everybody sets off from the Moot Hall to do these rounds. But it's bad luck to touch it.
So so I think the thing is, right. So I think, you know, when like you finish, everyone goes up the little steps on the left or right, and they touch the door, don't they?
Yeah.
So I was like under the impression that like you don't touch that door. So I've always started my rounds on that, like, with a flat bit underneath it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's your start, and it's like a bad omen. Not bad omen, I don't know, but it's just bad luck that if you touch the door before you finish the round. So I've always just stood by the door, never physically touched it, and then set off. And then obviously when you finish your rounds, that's when you sort of slap your hand on the door and be like, "Oh, thank God,
I finished."
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently it's
That's
a bad omen. I'm sure it's Paul Wilson that told me about this.
I'll have to look into that. A bit of folklore.
Yeah,
running
it'd
folklore.
be something in there for sure. Like,
that's cool. Is it?
But I'd be interested to know how many people have like touched Moat Hall's door and then not finished
failed.
it. Yeah. Versus the amount who haven't. Like, so yeah, I didn't do it on my Bob either. I didn't touch
that
it.
could be something that you could do, Jack. You could go around to all the people who failed the Bob Graham round and go, "Did you touch that?"
Yeah. Did you touch his door? I don't want to know about your nutrition.
Yeah.
I'm not asked about the fact that the weather was shit. I need to know, did you or did you not touch the door?
Yeah.
Instagram
When you touched the door, did the weather change?
Yeah. Did Skidor turn black?
Yeah.
Like, clouds coming over.
What happened? So you set off from Moot Hall in Keswick.
Yeah.
And then I guess you go. Is it Skidor first?
Yeah, Little Man Skidor, and then it goes down towards like Skidor House, and then I ironically called it the Paul Wilson line up to Blencathra. I only called it the Paul Wilson line because Paul lots of people have took it, but I followed Paul Wilson's line when I was doing the recce's and stuff. So I originally looked at like Andy Berry, who took a slightly different line, who's got the current summer record, and he takes a very, very different line. And eventually, after loads of like faffing around with like that leg, not that there is, but like just that little particular section, I eventually decided, I'm going to take the wall. When I was telling people about the line that I was taking, I just seemed to describe it as, it's the Paul Wilson line. And then ever since then, I've just referred to it. So I was like, we were going down off that
So
leg.
where's that? Which
it goes through like Skiddaw House, and then it follows the Cumbria Way for a really short period of time, and then it sort of basically just turns like a hard left, and it goes almost up and over towards like Mung Grisdale, and it comes across and round through a couple of little trods to join the BG line as if you were coming up Mung Grisdale from the Bob Graham. It's a great line. It's a fantastic way up Blencathra.
It's quite a lot of down to go up.
Yeah, so you lose all of that. So you go up and over Sale Howe, all the way down to the Cumbria Way, and then you sort of maybe half a K, max 400 metres, you're following the Cumbria Way as if you're going towards Keswick.
Yeah.
And then, you bend it like a left up the hill. And it's a great climb. It's not that bad. It looks pretty savage. And the first 2 times I did do it, I was like, this is great. This is a really efficient way. It's dead runnable for a steep hill. It's dead runnable. And then you just pick up the Bob Graham and it's dead easy all the way to Blencathra. And then you go into Felkeld, which was the end of leg 1, which was pretty sweet.
Sweet. So that's doable. It sounds doable.
No, it is.
And then from Frekeld, where we're heading then?
Felkeld, so it goes towards like Cloughhead, but it goes underneath Cloughhead. So it takes like the Fell Runners line underneath it onto like the Helvellyn Plateau, which is wicked. And that's really good. Had some really good friends, and some people from like Eden Runners met me on some of like the hills along the way. They just went out for a run, met me on the hills. But you basically just follow the plateau to Helvellyn, and it's like an out and back down swirls to Catsicam. So had quite a lot of ice and quite a lot of snow on that. So we just opted for just myself and Will Barton. Don't know if you know him, but he's a very, very, very talented fell runner and very, very good on his feet. And we basically decided me and Will would just go out and back to Catsicam just because like the snow. Like it was
so when you're coming off Helvellyn and you're going down Swirl Edge, and it's like you go down this real steep, jaggedy scramble, and then you go up Catsicam, which is fine, and then back down and then back up Swirl Edge.
Back up to where you start. So it's just an out and back. Like
you were wearing spikes.
Yeah, so the crew carried spikes for that bit. I sort of touched base with some like people I know that were working on the hill the day before just to give me a bit of an idea of conditions, and they all said you need spikes for swirls. And it's probably just like the first half realistically. It was just like the consequence of slipping probably would have been nothing more than like you'd have hurt and you'd have had to come back up the hill from Red Tarns, But like you just don't want that to happen. So me and Will took spikes, and we took an axe as well just in case.
Cool.
And we basically stayed on the snow. It's hard because at that point like I'm still so fresh that I wanted to move quick, but actually you've got to like rein yourself in a little bit. And I think Will did like a cracking job of like, let's just get down this safely.
Yeah.
And we can make that time. Not that there's any time to lose, but and then I probably would have gone all the way back up without my spikes on, but Will was like, and again, really rightly was like, let's put spikes on.
Yeah,
like, this is getting
preserve yourself.
Here. This is getting exciting. It only takes a slip, and the consequences could have been, pretty exciting. So, from Catsicam it goes over to like Nethermost, Dolly, and then like down into Grisdale Tarn. So up until that point, it follows basically the Bob Graham line. Really, cool. It's just without Cloughhead.
Catsicam.
Yeah,
that's the only difference.
That's the biggest difference, and that was a really great little section. And then it's a bit of a drag over to St Sundays. Sunday's funny, isn't it? Because it's never really up, but it's certainly never really down.
Yeah.
And then
it's sort of just.
Yeah, it just goes on and on.
So do you go up onto Fairfield? Obviously?
Nah, we went like the Brothers Trod, whatever it's called, that goes underneath. Underneath and onto the summit. It's a great little line.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like a little trog, isn't it? Yeah.
Dead obvious. And then from there, like the crux, not probably crux of that leg, is probably more like the descent off St Sundays. Yeah. And like I'd actually recce'd it 2 or 3 times with James, Les, and a few other people. And
where you heading?
You're going towards like Brothers Waters and Heartstop. Yeah. So a couple of people had took different lines, and I think I took a different line as well to everybody that I'd been, but we just played it on what felt most right and what was runnable, and we ended up through some like grassy stuff. But eventually you hit a path, it's great. You hit the main road just past like Patterdale, Glenriddin side, and then you're running maybe a K on the roads towards Heartstop, which was pretty good. And that's the end of leg 2. So I don't know how far that would have been at that point, but it was still pretty day out. I think I was up on schedule by about 3 or 4 hours at that point.
So far, it's a nice route.
Yeah,
it's not like, apart from Swirl Edge,
Yeah.
There's nothing
It's
majorly
taxing.
Great.
Like, and the weather was fantastic. Like, you know, it was warm, it was dry, the winds were in the right place when you wanted them. There was, you know, it was awesome. Like,
so then you're going from like the Patterdale area.
Yeah, so hard stop to the top of Kirkstone Pass, and that's another really cool little leg. I've run that a few times, really enjoyed it. It goes.
Does it just follow the trail up by the road?
Nah, it goes up the hills towards like Kidsey High Street.
Okay.
It's like Kidsey, Ramsey, High Street, up along to Thornthwaite Crag. So it's like out and back to Thornthwaite, which again for that bit is really cool. It's just a big out and back. You sort of it's quite steppy and blocky all the way down, steppy and blocky all the way up to Thornthwaite. You like literally tag it, you turn around, and then you've sort of got to come back towards like Stony Cove Pike. And then from there, it's dead easy. So Stony Cove all the way to Kirkstone, which is pretty cool. And I had a bit of a crew change there. So James actually joined me there as well. I forgot. Yeah, so James joined me there as well. Bless him, he came out and joined me, which was a really nice surprise because I wasn't expecting him at that point.
What time was it now?
It must have been getting towards. So I think when we left, it was probably sitting at around about probably 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So we weren't going because I was so far up that.
So it's dark.
Yeah, it's getting dark. Definitely by the time we got to Fairfield, it was pitch black. So it must have been. Well, yeah, it must have been. So we had like Steve Hotwood, Dave. Steve had done a double leg, so he joined me at Heartstop, which was epic.
Yeah,
another amazingly talented runner. Knows the fellas like the back of his hand. Great bloke to be out with, and Dave as well. James just came out for a run just to sort of see how I was getting on. So then it's another nice. It's actually probably I thought it was probably rightly or wrongly. I thought it was the most boring leg on the planet. It goes up Red Screes over to like Dove Crag, and as if you join basically just joining the Fairfield Horseshoe.
Yeah.
Fairfield, you go sort of around, sort of goes down towards, is it Arthur's? No, what's the name of it?
Off Fairfield.
Yeah, so you're coming off Fairfield.
Oh, yeah.
What's it called?
I don't know if it's Arthur's. It's not
Arthur's Seat.
Is it Arthur's Seat?
That is if you're going this Grasmere, basically.
Yeah.
And then it's about like 5-6K of like just running on the road. So you go into Grasmere at like Wordsworth or whatever it is.
Okay.
And then it's through Grasmere up like towards Red Bank. You take a little sort of trod or something, a line that like Dave and Steve knew really well. Yeah. And then you're following that all the way to Little Langdale, basically, so around like past the back of the Langdale Hotel, through those sort of trees around that sort of area.
Oh, right,
which
cool.
is pretty sick.
Nice trails.
Yeah, dead runnable, dead easy, but I found it quite boring.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's probably just the way it is. And then from there, you're at Coniston.
Are you hurting by this point?
No, I was great.
Right?
I was about 5 hours up on schedule. Yeah, so I felt great. So from there we had the Coniston leg and another, like the crew just did so good. Like, you know, I had Jamie Aarons, who had travelled from Loch Lomond of all places to come and help on. She actually drove for longer than she was running with me for. Which is unreal. And she's doing like the Monroe, so if you watch this, good luck. Tom Rothwell and Rob, who are just all phenomenally talented at what they do, came out and met me at some point around probably 10 o'clock or something like that. And then, so you got a big pull. This is probably one of the slightly, not harder legs, but sort of definitely like one of the more sort of funner legs, because I love Coniston in that area as well. So big pull up Weatherland, which was turbo icy. Like, really surprised how much ice was up there. Like, Rob did a great job at picking the best weights through it. And then it's like you've got Weatherland, and then what's it at the back of Weatherland? Great Cars and that. Is it Great Cars? You've got Great Cars.
Great Cars.
There's another one before it in there. I can't think what it's called.
That's where the crash site is, isn't it?
Yeah, so it goes out to Great Cars, Swill Howe. So it goes Weatherland, Swill Howe.
Yeah.
And then you like go out and back to Great Cars, and then you've got to go all the way to bloody the Old Man. And then it's like a weird like, out and back to Dow Crag, which is roughly halfway on the whole route.
So it's a bit like that first section's a bit like the Wainwrights.
Yeah.
But then out and back to Dow Crags.
Yeah.
So you go out onto Dow Crag Summit.
Yeah, so and then back onto that main path. So it's a little halfway. So there's some like really cool little highlights. That's probably one of them was like to celebrate the support crew. I don't think some of them were aware, but they were carrying a hip flask of whiskey for that particular moment. So we got onto Dow. It was a bit miserable and a bit minging at that point. I was definitely wet and definitely cold.
Yeah.
And sort of like I'd said to Tom, there's some whiskey. let's get this out, because I just wanted to celebrate that I was halfway. Do you know, like, it's a little bit of a little thing, and they all thought I was taking the piss, and then Tom's like, no, it's definitely a hit flask of whiskey, and we all had a little dram of whiskey, which was such a nice moment. And like, it felt like on the round, the whole way round, like I didn't really stop very much, so those little like moments just stood out for me so much. Like,
yeah, that's
I'm wet,
cool.
I'm cold, but this is fucking epic, and now I've got a whiskey in me and I feel steaming.
I bet you were off your head.
And then it's like you've got that, like, another little out back to like Greyfriars and that, which is wicked. And at that point, like, I had some decisions to make, and I had to like just stop with Tom and the team just really quickly, because from there you just drop into Rhinos and there's no signal. And I was probably about 5 hours up on my schedule at that point. So the whole schedule revolved around like leaving Rhinos and going over like the Crinkles and Bowfell and Esk in the daylight.
Yeah.
And I was so far up that even if I took my planned rest, then it still wouldn't be daylight by 2 or 3 hours.
Because the reason that you're wanting to be there in daylight is because both the top of Bowfell or on the way up to Bowfell is like, it's ankle breaking territory.
The Crinkles all the way,
It's like, just like, it's cool in summer. It's lush on a nice day in summer,
epic.
but in winter you could really hurt yourself.
It's, at night with ice, and like there was that weird, like, well, you'll probably know as well, or you definitely will, where like it's got that, everything seems to have that weird layer of like grease over it.
Yeah,
it's dead slippy.
Yeah,
like just anything
Nothing
you did, you could have Velcro and it just still wouldn't hold on to it, So I had to make a couple of like decisions on that, and it was mostly just because the support crew, like James, there was a lad from Blackburn, and there was another guy, Stanley, who was doing the round in a couple of months, had travelled already up and were waiting for me to tell them when I wanted to leave up. And it was more so that they could get a bit of rest and a little bit of shut eye. So we sort of just agreed as a collective on that leg that I'll take 2.5 hours rest. And the sort of theory is that I can 15 minutes to faff around each side, and then 2 hours of solid sleep, but also would allow them a bit of opportunity to get a bit of kip.
Yeah.
But it would mean that I wasn't running as much in the dark, if that makes any sense. In hindsight, actually, and I really wanted to, like, I wanted to just keep going. Yeah. Because I felt good. But I needed to sleep, and you got
to make those decisions. Though,
100%.
And I suppose that's when safety comes in as well.
Massively. Yeah.
So you're like, you're now how far into it?
Probably at 100k. So it's just over halfway.
60 odd miles in, pretty much, and you're like, even though you're feeling good, you are tired.
Yeah, for sure. You're getting those opinions from people, aren't you? Because
But I suppose that's the game, isn't it? Like, it's like you were saying right at the start when you were going down Swirl Edge. It's like you're really not tired. Yeah. And you want to keep going, and you want to move fast. And it's about somebody saying, but you're going to be tired. Yeah. And we need to make sure that you're making the right decisions when you are tired.
That's it.
So that little moment on Swirl Edge is now paying off later on. Yeah, cool.
And I think as well, like, it's thinking about like the reasons why I chose to do what I did. So I chose to sleep regardless. I chose to rest at Rhinos because it's roughly halfway, but it's also 24 hours into the round. It was meant to be. Yeah. Obviously, it was a lot more by the time I'd set off, or I was running. It was, how much I weighed this. Originally, I wanted to leave Rhinos 24 hours into the round, but it was, by the time I was leaving Rhinos, it was like 22 or something. 22 hours into the round by the time I was leaving.
You've had sleep as well.
I'd slept, point. So I think I got to Rhinos about 20 hours into the round. So
so you're well ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I was massively ahead. But I think as well, like, I chatted to Tom and a few other people on that Coniston, and they were like, it is going to be wet, and like, you're going to lose time now on that leg. So you're better off just, I suppose, accepting that, but also just taking the rest while you can so that you can move better, because either way you're going to lose the time, whether I keep going or not. And it was interesting, like, going through that decision making process. But getting to Rhinos felt really good. I'd sort of like been looking forward to that, and I hadn't really given it much thought until I actually got there and was like, just take my trainers off, eat something solid. Like, Kirsty, my partner, who just did an amazing job in the background of like support, and like, I gave her my phone. Leg 2, I just gave her my phone and was like, I just don't need this. Like, and she did this amazing job of like letting me just crack on with doing what I was doing, and she ran everything behind the scenes. Just like, even now, she's like, "Oh, did you know this happened?" And I'm like, "Not a fucking clue."
I want to come back to Kirsty in a bit.
Yeah,
this is something that really intrigues me, and that we're going to. I'm going to be talking about a lot more on this.
Yeah,
so
she did so well. But yeah, so then what was it? Big leg for me, massive leg. So sort of like 6 and 7, I think it is. So for me, it's one leg from rhinos basically to bottom ear.
Can I just?
Yeah.
Let me just rewind a minute. One thing that intrigues me is you're making this decision. You're almost a day in, as in like 24 hours in. You're making this decision to have a sleep.
Yeah.
That ultimately is your choice.
Yeah.
But how does that decision-making process happen with the guys that you're running with? Because obviously the guys that you're running with are there to get you round and support you to get round. You're in one state of mind.
Yeah.
I imagine by this point you're pretty locked into the challenge and you're but also they'll be a lot more safety conscious and conscious and clear-minded because they've not been running
for sure,
for 60, 100k or whatever. So how does that, is it just an off-the-cuff dynamic thing that happens between the lot of you? Or is that a pre-planned, like, we're going to have a discussion at this point?
Yeah. So obviously, like the support crew that are on each leg roughly know what time I'm going to be departing those legs. And I think anyone who knows me will know that I'm shocking at schedules. And like, that's the perks of like things like trackers and stuff like that. So like people, and there's constant communication on that WhatsApp group, you know, where people are like, yeah, he's this much up, or he's this much up. And then that process was a conversation that me and Tom and Jamie and Rob had, and they just basically relayed that to James and that crew within the WhatsApp group, you know, and just said, look, his ETA to rhinos is at X, Y, and Z. He's going to take 2.5 hours rest. He's going to depart at this time. And I think that the guys just did amazingly at like responding to that.
That's really cool. So what I'm getting from that is you've got a tracker on, which is like a little GPS thing that you get from Open Tracker.
That's it, yeah.
So you rent that from Open Tracker, and that's like a 2G signal.
Yeah,
it just tracks what you're
10
doing.
10 seconds or whatever it is.
And then Open Tracker have an app, and so we can see your dot moving around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the routes all logged on there and everything. So everybody's watching you go around.
Yeah. And
they're like, then they're in communication with the team on the ground who are supporting you. And then the team who are going to meet you at, like, for example, down in the valley, they're chatting to them, they're watching you on the tracker, and then there's a back and forth, and then ultimately they'll say to you, like, Jack, this is what we're thinking. Yeah. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And you'll
100%.
say, you'll have the command decision, but then you'll say, I want to do this, and then they'll go, get ready for him, he's going to stop.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like, again, I didn't have my phone, and like in a lot of aspects, sometimes like I don't think I maybe did have that command decision. And I think that's the great thing about like the knowledge and experience of the amount of people that were on my round was that they knew me really well, but also they just that depth of experience to be able to make the decisions for me, knowing that that's the decision I'd have made anyway.
Yeah, sweet,
and like
sweet.
So like the rounds, I suppose, like you know, people are gonna. The people on that leg, whatever leg it is, are always going to say, oh yeah, we're here. Our ETA to X, Y, and Z is going to be roughly this. And then that next crew are more than aware of it, do you know? So I think like any legs I've sort of like, I've helped on any round, as soon as like the batton's on sort of the leg before mine, I'm sort of dialing in, where are we going to be? What's our rough times? Are we up? Are we down? And you sort of like, with that knowledge, you can sort of gauge how a person's moving through the hills. You know, you can sort of see how they're moving through the tracker and that.
I suppose then you can be like, right, like let's say you're behind.
Yeah. You
can be like, right, he's 30 minutes behind. When he gets into the aid station or the stop, he needs food, he needs change of socks, he needs this, that, the other. He's limping a bit on his left leg. He might need his pulls.
This is something like me and Kirsty, like we like went through in like quite a lot of detail. So, you know, I know you'll come back to it later, but like Kirsty, we had gone through like meticulously what I would want when I would want it. So she knew that when I got to rhinos that I had a meal planned, do you know, like, and it was ready to go. She knew that I'd want to change my trainers. She knew that I'd want to, you know, like we had water bottles. There was a system in place for everything, and it made the whole thing so much thicker. So like we had 2 soft flasks in the van that would be passed to the oncoming support crew. The oncoming support crew would take from, like the safety bags. You had to carry a safety bag, obviously, or a safety sack anyway. And, they had their bottles, they've got the food. Everything was always sort of like pre-planned in advance. And where possible, we just, I would meet people. I met like, other people on the round and gave them like the food bags already. So it was all sort of like done. And in that aspect, it was all just so that, because 10 minutes when you're like trying to flap around, grabbing people's stuff and that sort of stuff is not a lot of time. And like, especially when I say 10 minutes and then 5 minutes later I'm running, like it's got to be frustrating. So we sort of like I preempted everything from experience and knew that like when I got to rhinos, I would want to change my shoes, I'd want to change my socks. And I had a lot of these like little mental things that just made me feel fresh. So like, I know it sounds daft, but I brushed my fucking teeth.
No, that's
because it makes me feel fresh.
Yeah, like,
100%. I've reset. I've had a reset. I've changed my socks. I've got a new set of clothing on. I've got a solid meal in me, and I'm ready to attack the crux of the route.
So now you're in pain. You're feeling really tired, but actually you're like, oh, yeah, but I'm safe.
Yeah, psychologically, I'm all
right.
Sort of tricked myself into going, oh, this is great. Like
you just lie to yourself constantly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, totally. Like Kirsty's just like, are you feeling all right? I'm like, yeah, I feel great. And inside, I'm like, fucking hell, what am I doing this for? Now, to be fair, I don't think at that point of rhinos, I think anyone who does that sort of distance and then stops, it takes you a little while to wake up a little bit, like your legs just to get moving again. And actually, I think I was all right up until, I think I felt pretty good. I didn't feel great, but I felt all right at that point.
Yeah. So then you bounced from rhinos.
Yeah, big leg, massive leg. So we went all the way from so the Crinkles, Beaufort, out and back to Esk, down to Rossett Tarn.
Yeah.
Over to High Raise. Do a 90-degree turn on High Raise, drop all the way down to Langstrath Beck. Probably probably the one bit that I was least looking forward to. And then it's like, if you were just going to draw a line from like Langstrath Beck to the summit of Garamara.
That one.
That one. That's the way we went. We just went straight up. It was fucking heinous. Like, It was so steep, but it's the most direct way.
Is that like Heinz Gill sort of territory?
I don't know. It's like,
oh no, it's the other side, isn't it?
It's High Raise side of it.
So
it's a big old climb. Like, it's a massive 700
steep.
meter climb. Like,
that's crazy.
I think it makes up quite a lot of that leg. And then you've got like a really good bit of running, like Galamara over to Alan Crags over to like Broad.
Yeah,
those peaks around there, all of those onto Scarfell.
Yeah,
and then we had like Scarfell over to Scarfell Pike via like Lord's Rake and that, which had a little bit of snow and ice. That was really exciting. And then probably I reckon like from probably Scarfell, so not Scarfell Pike but Scarfell. That's where things started to like. Yeah, inevitably it's going to happen. Like you start to think, okay, I need some proof in here. Like I need to start. I'm
swelling up.
Yeah, I'm hurting, and I'm okay with that. I was hurting, my knees, my ITBs were starting to feel it a little bit, and I was definitely slowing.
Because that's the worst, man. IT band pain it feels like somebody's taken a part of your knee out.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
just briefly for like a few seconds, and then it disappears.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, I'm all right, and then it comes back.
It's like. It's such a weird, like at that point I was like, I felt like, I mean, like people know me well enough, but like I've got no dramas saying. I think at that point, that's probably the only time where I was on Scarfell and I said to James, I was like, just need a minute here, mate. Like it was only me and James. So, and James is a great friend, not to keep bringing him up or anything, but like he knows me well enough. He knows when I know that if I want that minute, I think that's probably like the only time where I was like, fucking hell, I've got a long way to go yet. And things are starting to hurt. And then you just have to check in with yourself and like understand this is part of what I've signed up for. This was going to happen sooner or later, and I've just got to embrace it. And like the lads did a cracking job up to Steyr Tarn of just keeping me laughing, keeping me ticking through, not ever pushing me too much. Do you know what I mean? And actually, that leg's so good.
So now we've gone from it being fit, healthy, strong Jack to. Fit, healthy, strong Jack doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. It's all about what he's got in his mind.
Yeah, it's how much do you like being in the hurt locker? Do you know, like how much do you enjoy being in the pain cave? And Like, I ironically quite like it, apparently. Although I definitely had a couple of moments. So we had a crew change at Styhead, and so Steve Hotwood, who was probably with me less than 8 hours before that, like spontaneously came out because I was up on schedule. Some of the crew that were meant to meet me at Styhead to Buttermere couldn't join me. So me and James, very similar to like the Coniston leg, me and James had a conversation on Island Crags about how and what we were going to do about this. Yeah. And the first thing I said was, sound, I'll just do it myself. Like if someone could come in, Les was going to come in with me, who was a really good friend again. He came out, he was going to carry the bag, I was going to nav it.
Yeah.
Happy days. It's easier said than done when you've done 120k. Like so easier said than done. Like
I don't even know why your brain's...
I just thought, because I just want to keep going. And like, so then there was a lot of messages on the WhatsApp. I wasn't aware of this. And then James is like, look, Steve's going to come out. He's going to nav this leg for me.
Yeah.
Like, and again, like I've said this multiple times, but like Steve saved the round.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would have done, I said in hindsight, and I was looking back at it a while ago, and I was like, I would have got around that leg with Les. Les, nothing against him. He's a great bloke. He won't mind me saying that. But like, he just doesn't know that area well enough to be able to nav it at night.
Yeah, whereas, this goes back to what we said right at the start about like there's something beautiful about knowing the mountains.
Yeah, 100%.
And if it's not a knock on somebody who doesn't know the mountains and needs a map or needs a GPS to get around. It's not a problem. It's just that,
like I'm not slagging Les off because like he literally did not leave my shoulder. If I wanted something, it was there.
It's
like,
good.
He fulfilled a role.
Is amazing support.
Oh fuck, one
just
of the best.
Doesn't know the fells.
Yeah, absolutely. And he knew that. He was okay with that, and like Steve came out and met me at Styhead, which was a bit of a relief, if I'm really honest.
Yeah.
And again, I would have finished the round.
I can imagine, like, I just navving with that kind of tiredness and pain would be like you'd be constantly. Yeah. You'd be like almost tripping.
Yeah. And the people on that leg will probably agree I was in quite a bit of pain by that point. Like I was definitely running, but I was certainly running nowhere near at the speed that I had been for a while. And like, my knee, it's all this normal stuff that's meant to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I was fucking taking like quadruple doses of paracetamol every 2 minutes. Like, maybe not every 2 minutes, but definitely like over. My girlfriend would not have recommended it. No.
She's a nurse, right?
Yeah, that's right. So
when you're out in the hills, basically you're smashing drugs.
Oh yeah, I was like,
and then you're a good boy when you're at home.
Like everything and anything. But I was eating really well as well, and I was drinking a lot and that. So we left Styhead. I took 5 minutes at Styhead, literally no more, no less. It was enough for the lads to do a quick crew change. So James and the guys that had been with me on that leg, they carried on down to Seathwaite. And then you've got like, you basically you sort of go up and out and back to like, is it Green Gable?
Yeah.
And then you pick up the Bob Graham all the way. So you go and do like Green, Great, out to like Pillar.
Yeah.
And then you've got like a couple, it's really weird. So you go out to like Pillar, and then you've got like, same as if you're doing a Bob Graham, steeple.
Yeah.
Out to Red Pike.
Yeah.
And then it's Red Pike's a big out and back. So you go out and back to Red Pike, out and back to steeple. And then you've got some great running all the way down and back up to, I want to say Haycock. I can't remember the name of the hill.
Yeah, it's Haycock. You've got Haycock, and then next to it you've got...
I don't know. But we went out and back to Haycock anyway.
Yeah.
So it's down, up and out to Haycock, which is really quick, easy, up and down.
Yeah.
And then things got like a little bit more exciting because it was quite dark. It was probably close to midnight by that point. Maybe not far off at 10 o'clock or something. It must have been about midnight. And it's like Steve just did this amazing job of like navving in some really tough like underfoot conditions. It was like those fucking baby ebbs where like, you put your foot on something and then you drop to your nipples.
Oh, sorry. So up onto Haycock.
Yeah.
Real steep up.
Yeah.
So off Pillar and Steeple and all that.
Yeah.
Up onto Haycock, back down.
Back down to the Coll and then into like towards Ennerdale.
Yes. Yeah. And we talked about this before.
That's it.
That little ridge.
That's like it, yeah.
The ridge that then you drop down real steep down to the water, down to Ennerdale water.
Absolutely, yeah. Like that was pretty, well, we
and
chatted
it's
about
like
it. Brutal.
When you look at it, that like the way that I would describe this is when you look at the ground, it looks like you can just walk over this lush green.
Yeah, there's a track that's not there.
And then you start walking on it and your foot just disappears and it's like rocks that have just been covered with moss. Yeah. Basically.
The only way I described it is like, do you know that game where you've got like the hammer and like the heads pop up and you've got to hit it?
Yeah, whack-a-mole.
Like, that's it, whack-a-mole. But like that's like Steve. So Steve would like he'd be over there, his head torch would drop, and then and then a couple of seconds later it'd pop up over there, and then it'd pop back up over there, and like he did. I know, and he won't mind me saying this, but he was stressed, but he did this amazing job.
Yeah.
At, like, you know, Les was on my shoulder. Les never left me like at any point. He was whacking food in me constantly, and like the two just seemed to like fulfill these roles really naturally. But like Steve just did this fucking unbelievable job, and looking back at it, I was like, there's no way I'd have been able to do that on my own.
No, it's tough up there, man. Because when I was up there, I created a 24-mile loop.
Yeah.
And that was like maybe 3/4 of the way around it. And that little section, I was just walking.
Yeah.
So like I saw the trail on the map and I was like, oh, there's a trail. I'll just hit the trail. And then I got the GPS out because I was like, where's the trail?
Yeah.
And there is no trail.
So that's the one bit that I didn't recce because I was like, there's a path.
Yeah, there is no path.
There's no path.
It's clearly marked on the map.
So Steve, we got to this like gate crossing with these like I've never seen deer fences that high.
Yeah.
And Steve's like, and like bless him, he came over and it was almost like to convince me that it was like, look, I've got to ask this. We are where we're meant to be.
Yeah.
It just isn't here. And eventually we worked our way through it. And like I said, Steve did this like fucking fantastic job of like getting us through that.
So then you drop down to Ennerdale.
And then you've got a little run up to like the hostel. Is it like the hostel, the hut or whatever?
Little hut, yeah. You're going back up towards Green Gable that way.
Yeah, so as if you're going up that way, but then you turn like a left towards High Style and Red Pike. High Style's the last peak on that leg. And I think at that point, from leaving Rhinos to then, it was about 11 and a half hours or something. And then we had like, again, some like little decisions that me and Steve had like chatted about, you know, so originally we were going to go out to like, is it Red Pike that's just a bit further along the way towards, so originally we were going to go, because it was quite wet still, and like I wasn't descending the best, and I was like working really hard to climb because I was aware that I was losing time on the descents because my legs, my knees, everything was sort of swelling
IT
up.
was kicking up.
Everything, descending really was quite painful. But I just wanted to pick the most efficient way down. So me and Steve both have done George Fisher T-round. It's a line off High Style. It's quite techy, in that it's really rocky. It's quite steep, but it was a bit of a 50-50 decision. And then originally 1 minute we were going like up to like Red Pike, and then another minute we were chatting away, and he'd be like, "Oh, let's just take the T-round." Eventually we got to Summit, and I was like, "Let's just make a decision." And Steve sort of was like, "Let's just take the T-line. We've got to go down. We might as well just use that time efficiently."
Yeah.
So we took the line off off the High Star onto T-round, joined the side of Buttermere Lake, and then got to the van. And it was like, I don't know, it was a really weird, like, it was a really awesome attitude. Like for me, the whole thing was to do it under 48 hours.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole point. And like at that point, it was like it could go either way.
Because
I was losing time on the descents, and when you've just dropped 700 meters and it's taking fucking forever, you're like, oh. And then there was Luke, there was Sarah Perry, there was Johnny, Steph come from the club, but she wasn't meant to help out. This is midnight, by the way.
Wow.
So like he came from Penrith. He'd already done leg one, and then he just came out and joined me at midnight, which I thought was epic. Who else was on that leg? There was somebody else on that leg. There was Johnny. There was someone else. I'm sure there was someone else, but forgive me if you were on it, I can't remember. So originally I planned to take 45 minutes there, but with the way things were moving, I felt like we could use that time to be moving as opposed to not moving. So I chatted with Steve again, that decision making on the way back in, and we both agreed the best thing for me to do is to take 10 minutes. Yeah. But you get that like second wind, don't you? When it's like your last leg, you're like, right, I'm fucking smashing this.
Yeah, I'm there.
Like,
yeah.
But the winds were changing. It was definitely getting wetter. It was definitely getting colder. So the last leg is up to Witless Pike. It sort of goes over to Witless, the one at the back right of that. What's that called? Oh, I can't think what it's called. Just before Sale and Crag Hill. Can't think what it's called now.
You've
got
got
Witness Pike, and there's another one on the right.
Before sailing Crag Hill.
Yeah, as if you're on the Buttermere side. Oh, what's it called? Forgive me.
It's all right.
Can't remember what it was called. It'll come to me.
I'm really bad with names.
Oh, it'll come to me. That's where I was today. Oh, no, hang on. It bugged the heck out of me. Someone would be watching.
Causey Pike's further along, isn't it?
Yeah, Causey didn't go that far down. Grassmore. One Dape. So it goes up to like One Dape.
Yeah.
So Witness Pike doesn't count,
yeah.
which is a great climb. That's probably one of my favourite climbs, that from like Buttermere all the way up to One Dape. So good. And I like somehow managed to get PRs all over the place on that. So like I was buzzing off probably energy gels, to be fair.
But also, like that's the thing, isn't it? When you know you can run when you know a trail really well, and you know you can run it really well, even in this state of body that you're in, your mindset just goes, I know I can run this really well. So all of a sudden
I'll just go for it. And like I was climbing really well, like, and I knew that like my descending was becoming a problem, or it was slowing me down. And what I was having to do was like work really, really hard on the ascents, like as if I sort of have to like mentally go, oh, I'm fresh, let's just keep going. Do you know? And like I worked really hard on that ascent to make up a bit of time. And then it goes like out and back to like, so you got like Crag Hill, out and back to Sale, back up to Crag Hill. And then it sort of goes over to like Grassmore and all that. So we did One Dape, and then we went Grassmore, Crag Hill that way.
Yeah.
And then like you go up to like Hob, Scar, and those sort of that little area at the back of Grisdale, which is, I ran that with Les a couple of weeks before, and I was like, the next time I'm here, I'm gonna be in so much pain. So I spent a lot. It sounds so daft, but like I'd spent like 20 minutes with Les, like just in total silence, like trying to mentally visualize how much pain I would be in, and it wasn't anywhere near as much pain as I was in. So I was like,
you tried at least.
Fucking hell. So we got to Grisdale Pike. That's hill number 61. Could see. It could see like Keswick in the background, which was a really nice feeling, and like
it's home.
Oh, it was so good. And like the crew on that, like, you know, Sarah, Luke, Johnny, all of yous were just unreal. Like they were so, because it was wet and it was windy, and it was windy. Like I was descending so slow that it must have been frustrating, and they were just so supportive and like
shivering away.
Yeah,
thinking,
like
come on, Jack.
I'm like I'm getting frustrated because I know that I can, you know, like Sarah Perry's got, you know, records under her belt. She's an innovative bloody athlete and all this sort of stuff, and you've got, you know, Johnny, who's an amazing runner, and you've got loads of people who've come out, and like you are tired, and you're like you're going through this, like you've gone through this massive roller coaster, and you've embraced every bit of it, and I really did. And I loved every minute of it. But then you're like, when things stop working, when you know you're capable of doing it, when you know that you've ran that leg and done it in 4 hours and you're still fucking going 5 hours later, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But you have to offset that. You've got to push it aside. And like,
you've got to remember what you've been
doing.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Johnny and Luke as well were like, you know, I'm not frustrated. You know, I never once expressed that. You know, I make a real conscious point of that. People are coming out to help me, and I want this to be a really good experience for them.
Yeah.
And if I'm hurting, that's my own fault, but I shouldn't have to like express that to them. I've never sort of done that.
So you're in pain, you're tired, and you're still being
just having a laugh. Yeah, just having a laugh about it. I think we were telling sex jokes, to be honest with you. I think it was something like that. I don't know, and especially in that weather. And the guys, like, they teed up Grisdale so nicely, and they all stood up there, and like they had the, you know, like all clapped and cheered and all that sort of stuff, and it was like cool. So it's like, you know, that's
fill you with a bit of energy.
Yeah, 100%. But like by that point, descending was just really, really painful, and like I'm quite numbers orientated, as you probably know, and that's what motivates me. And like I was stressing that I was gonna, this is gonna go to the wire here. Like it didn't, but it could have gone to the wire.
Yeah.
So I worked really hard. It's when you're that discomfort and like you're in that much pain, it always feels like you feels like you know you're working hard, but it never feels like you feel like you could be working harder, and you want to know why. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
So the way that I describe, I can unpack that.
Yeah.
A little bit, because you know what I'm like. I'm a flipping deep thinker. So the way that I would unpack that is that when you get to that stage, you're in pain, so you've run yourself into physical pain.
Yeah.
When your thoughts are negative, there's nothing you can do. Your body and your thinking are directly connected together.
Yeah.
So when you're if you think negative, let's put it another way.
Yeah.
If you think negative for long enough, you will eventually get into physical pain. You'll get sick. You'll get sick. So when you put yourself into physical pain through a challenge like this, like an ultra distancing, what happens is you start to think like your IT band's hurting, you're thinking, oh man, I'm never going to be able to walk properly again. Like this is just your thought process, but you keep moving forward. Yeah. And this is where what I've realized through doing longer distance events is that there's 3 parts to every person. Yeah. Okay. There's the physical, there's the thinking, and then there's you. Yeah. So what you're talking about there is that you've accepted that you're in pain. Yeah. You've accepted that it sucks for you. Yeah, yeah. But you are deciding to pull out the best version of yourself in that moment still and keep moving forward. 100%. And that's I think that is the beauty of this kind of challenge, is that you get to know yourself on a very deep level. 100%. Yeah. You have to know yourself pretty well, don't you, when you're doing those sort of things? And you're going to get to know yourself. Yeah. Really if you fucking don't, you're very going to. Like, you're going to know what characteristics you have or haven't you got. I think that, like, for me, it's that acceptance of going, this is going to hurt, and I'm not surprised, and I'm just going to sort of embrace it. And like, the big thing for me is that like Luke, I'd never met. You know, there was a handful of people that had travelled from Burnley, like Loam, and like had travelled long distances to support mine. And I think that I really want it to be as a positive experience for them as it was for me. Yeah. But also, like, you know, if I was in their shoes and I was bitching and whinging and screaming, I'm in pain, I'd kind of like, well, fucking, this is what you signed up for. Do you know, like, and actually I enjoy that, because I think, you know, you can learn a lot about yourself, like you said, and that's really important. Like, there was so many, I can count maybe on 3 things how many lows I ever had. You know, and those are, people won't know that, they'll be personal to me. James would have probably guessed on Scarfeld, you know, but I don't think the other people and the other 2 sort of bits would realise. And I think, like, it's just, you know, for me, the big thing is, anytime I go out on days like that, it's like, if I've got to, as soon as I've got to the first hill, it's like, well, I might as well just go one more, and then go one more and one more. And actually, by the time you sort of get to a point where you really do want to give up, you're like, well, I've done all this, what's the point in giving up now? And, and that, I never was really an option for me. I took that option away when I started training from it. It was like, unless I sort of slip and hurt myself, or like, you know, weather, that I would have always finished it. Yeah. I don't doubt that. Like, and that's, call that cocky, call it confident, call it whatever you want. It's just removing that possibility from your mindset. Yeah, If you remove it, then there's only one possible outcome. Yeah. The only thing that's going to stop you is the worst possible outcome. Yeah, 100%. But like, that's not going to happen because you've planned it and you're supported. The worst possible outcome was going down Grisdale Grind. That sucks. You're going down what, sorry? Grisdale Grind. So from the top of Grisdale, it's just that path all the way down. That went on for 2.5 hours that took me. Whoa. Yeah, 2.5 hours, man. Like, I've could literally. You were in pain. Yeah, I was in a lot. Anything that was bigger than that. Yeah. Like, I just couldn't do. Oh, I have to like really go backwards almost. Just like, I mean, like, I tried sitting on my bum. I tried everything. Oh wow. But as soon as I hit the road, that's when like I just got like that ultra shuffle going. Okay, yeah. And like, I'd like walk for like a minute, and then I'd shuffle for 5. Yeah. And then as soon as I realised that the 48 was going to go, it was like, yeah, okay, I just need to keep going here. Yeah, just like, get it done. Yeah, 100%. And I think deep down, I'd love to have got like, you know, under 47 hours, but 7 minutes is nothing in the grand scheme of things. Do you know? Like, it's. So then you went and touched the door. Then I walked up the stairs, and I had like a little moment to myself, which was really nice. Yeah. Just sort of touched the door, and then all of a sudden, like, you just sort of go, cool, sweet, that's that. Like, it's done. Yeah, I've done it. I've 3-4 months of like prepping and like planning and constantly fucking thinking about it, and all of a sudden it's like, it's over. It's like, you know, 47 hours later, it's done. And how long were you training for it for? So I came off like a bit like the Dragon's Back that me and James sort of did in October. Took 2 weeks off after that, and I've trained pretty consistently for 3 months. So like, the Dragon's Back is how long is the Dragon's Back? It's like 350k or something. It's like North Wales to South Wales. Yeah, so it's not. So you did you train for that
No, I
prior?
just went running. Yeah, I did it with James for 5 days, which was awesome. I think it's like 5 days we ran for.
Yeah.
So it's like,
how long did they do the race over?
It's a similar sort of thing. So we followed the same route to
timings.
points.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just obviously we would run for long. We didn't have we had to go out and back to some places with like hotels and various other bits.
Okay,
but
yeah.
like that was really cool. So came off that, and then I trained pretty consistently for about 3 months.
So one thing that I've got from you, which I'm really grateful for, is how to train. So
Yeah.
did you do the same thing? Did you train in blocks?
Yeah. So obviously I came off the Dragon's Back, and the Dragon's Back for me was like a tick to see if I was able to do. It was like a mental tick in my head of like, can I do that?
Yeah.
Do you know? So I came off that with obviously like a really high aerobic like capacity.
Yeah.
So I touched base with Steve, who
aerobic being just to clear that up, you're moving consistently.
Yeah,
not fast,
slow to moderate pace.
consistently.
Yeah, zone 2.
We call it zone 2 running.
Yeah, zone 2 running. It's really easy. I'm realistically, I'm just sort of plodding along.
Yeah, enjoying the trails.
Yeah, 100%.
And just running yourself into a fatigue, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Long days, 1 or 2 like long days here or there. So I spent probably about 8 weeks of that 3 months like doing a lot of speed training.
Yeah,
a lot of hill work. So 2 or so speed sessions of sort of varying types on the hills, and everything that I did on the route.
Yeah.
So if I did a hill sprint, I did it on the route. If I went for a long run, I did it, with the exception to a couple of days, because that's how you get to know it. And then I went into like a block of like just long runs, like long runs, 2-3 days back. So I did like 1 week. I think the longest week I did was like 200 kilometers and like just shy of 10,000 meters of ascent.
Yeah.
But that was over 4 days, and it was just like I went to sleep, I woke up, I went for a long run, I went to sleep, and I just used the legs. So I did like leg 1, 2, and 3, or leg 1 or whatever, do you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that was really, really, like really key, just to getting your body used to keep on going. Especially when you don't want to go in the morning, you could go to Mackey's instead. You go running.
But when you're saying it now, that's like the perfect week.
Yeah.
I just got up and I went running.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
But when you're actually doing it, it feels different.
Oh, yeah. When you're looking at a forecast and you're like, right, so tomorrow I'm going to do 25K. This is like day 3. It's going to take a little bit longer than it has for the last 2 days. And you look at the forecast and you're like, great, it's pissing down rain, it's freezing cold. I've just spent the last 2 days doing that. So it's really hard, but you have to be consistent. You have to be like motivated for that. I think that's like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Anything like that is like, for me, it'd be like, if I didn't do the round, and the same for the Bob, and the same for just about, maybe anything else, is like, if I hadn't done that training run that was only going to take me 3 or 4 or 5 hours, that could have possibly been the reason why I didn't achieve the goal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, you drop the time because you're moving even slower.
Absolutely. If I'm setting off, I want to know in my head that I've done absolutely everything to give me the best possible opportunity to complete what I'm setting out to do. And if I don't do it, and I have done everything, and I can genuinely look myself in the mirror and say that without bullshitting myself, then it's just meant to be. That's just the way it is. Do you know what I mean? It just wasn't your day. But if you get around it and you've done absolutely everything you can, then I feel like James, and yourself and a few other people will know that, like, especially with the Steve Parr, not so much the Bob, like, I fucking lived and breathed it for 48, for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If I was at work, I was looking at the route. If I wasn't at work, I was on the route. And I think, like, and I looked at everything like meticulously, a lot more than maybe I have in the past. And I think that's for me is part of that. That's part of the round. It's as much of the part of the round. So that when I set off, I can honestly say to myself, have I done everything? Because if I haven't, might get lucky, might not. But if I don't, then, like, I don't know. I don't know if it makes any sense or not.
It completely makes sense. What makes sense is it goes back to what you were saying when I was describing the thinking, the body, and the you.
Yeah.
It completely makes sense, because when you come in at 50 hours, and you're like, what are you going to say to yourself?
Yeah, for sure.
Are you going to be like, well,
well,
it's not my fault because it rained that day?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be like, I know where I tripped up. I know what I could have done better.
100%. like 48 hours is the goal that I set, and you're gonna do. I'll do everything I needed to do to ensure that happens.
Get round in that time, and then if something, like we were saying before, if something happens, like you fell, like you can't.
Yeah,
like that terrain where it's really. Luckily, you had really good support.
Yeah,
and luckily you had Les there feeding you and sort of keeping you straight, and you were in a good enough physical state to get over it.
Yeah.
But like I've been up there, and there's nothing stopping your leg.
Nah,
going down one of those little.
And those
holes.
are like, I think those are all just like they're little things you just can't avoid.
Exactly.
So they're the non-manageables.
And then you get back in 50 hours. You can go, well,
sure.
my ankle's knackered. I need to go to the hospital now.
Yeah. Like, and people go, great, cool.
You'd still be gutted though.
Yeah. Good effort for doing it and like an ankle, but like they're the non-manageables. So you can't manage those things. No. Those are just it just happens. No one wakes up in the morning and plans for that to happen. But what I can do is I can affect the manageables. Yeah. And like, so it's like, the food or like the support crew and all of the stuff that I need to do to ensure that like I do what I achieve to do. And again, like you can cocky or confident or whatever you want to call it.
No, it's like, not cocky and confident. It's I don't know if you read much philosophy. It's stoic. It's stoicism.
Yeah. That's it. Stoic.
It's what can I control?
Yeah.
Like, I can control this. Can I control my foot falling down a hole and my ankle getting twisted? No.
Yeah.
But what can I control? I can control the fact that I'm going to have support at that moment and somebody who can navigate really well and get me over that terrain.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's all I can do.
And training is that. That's exactly what training is.
Yeah.
It's you see, if I don't go out for a run and then I don't do it, or don't do the round, then I don't know. I don't know if I could like go to bed at the end of the day and go, fucking hell, if I'd gone running for 4 hours, then I might have nailed this. Do you know what I mean? Like
that's it. Yeah.
It's that consistency of like. I stopped looking at the weather, particularly in like January when it was pissing down rain every day of the week. I was just like, I'll just go out. It'll be what it'll be. And
so this is where I'm gonna throw something in here. This is where you've helped me loads, because I like my position in life where I'm at the moment. Routines, working full time, like being a dad. Trying to get my training in as well and getting out doing my running. It's literally been like when I've got little one here, like running around the park, doing laps around the park, because the marathon that I'm training for is actually quite flat. There's not a lot of ascent. There's a couple of mountains in there. But my thing has been just get out when you can.
For sure.
And then as you start getting into your training blocks, then you need to start getting out to the fells and doing more and more and more. To the point where this month I have I'm trying to budget better as well, because I'm on my own, so it's tough.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm like, this is where this mentality that you're talking about. So like this month, I'm like, how can I use my money better this month? Well, I need more calories. So I'm like now going, right, so you're going to make some cutbacks there, and you're going to get more peanut butter. And you're gonna get more like protein bars. You're just gonna get more food in this month.
100%.
And you're gonna have enough fuel to get yourself to the fells. And this is like over the last 2 months since we spoke. It's about 8 weeks ago, something like that. I've been like trying to refine this lifestyle to allow me to train more. And sometimes that does take a little bit of time to get your head around. But like you say, when I run that race, I want to get to the finish and be like, did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? Yes. Did I do everything that I could? Well, yes, because I achieved it.
You achieved it.
And it's like one of the things was reaching out to you and saying, yo, I know that you're busy and you might not want to help me, but can you give me some advice?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things that I was like blown away by was I've never really asked you for advice before. Maybe about business when I was doing my guiding thing, but then you sent me 2 5-minute voice notes.
I remember.
I was like, what the actual? I phoned Kyle up and I was like, dude. He's just sent me a 10-minute, 2 5-minute voice notes, and it's changed my whole understanding of training. completely.
Yeah,
And
sure.
yeah, and then since then it's like, right, you don't need to worry too much. April the 8th is when it starts.
Yeah.
Get your fitness up now, get your budgeting right, get yourself in a position where you can do your training plan, and then just go and smash it out.
And then just go and crack out the training.
Which is what you've just basically talked us through there.
Absolutely. It's just like, just looking at it from like working backwards from when your date is, isn't it? Like that's what we did, didn't we? When's your race? Great. Okay. It's whatever it is. Right. Okay. So you tapers 2 weeks before that. So that's when realistically your training finishes is 2 weeks before your race.
Yeah.
Because anything you do after that is not going to make a single difference.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And again, like if you haven't put the hard work in, it'll show. If you have, it'll show. Like you can't bullshit physics. Do you know what I mean? Or if you're fit enough for something, you'll know about it.
And that's the other thing that I always thought, that if I was running a 45-mile race, that was 44, whatever it is, that I needed to be running 100 miles a week.
Nah, bollocks.
And you were like, why?
Yeah, no, you're just gonna get an injury.
Yeah. Why are you doing that?
Yeah,
and then
just gonna get an injury.
Reshaping my whole approach to like the training was amazing, because then all of a sudden I was able to go, oh, you really have no excuses, Ben. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't need to run 100 miles a week.
No.
You just need to get out running.
Just need to go running.
And then I started to look at it like, if I did 5K in the morning and 5K on an evening, I can do that before little one gets up.
100%.
Half an hour.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's a 10K run every day.
Most of my mornings for the Steve Parr training, I was up at 3 a.m. I'm in work at 9.
Yeah.
So I'm up at 3. I'll do my run 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock I'm home, shower, and then at 8:15 is a really quick shower. Do a U-turn and go to work.
How much sleep were you getting during that time?
I love sleep anyway, probably like everyone, I think. I could just come in after work, eat. It depends what's on the next day, because if it's like a short interval session or something that I know I'm doing, and I know I can do that at the end of the day.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know? So it's just managing the time, or like I always try and work 2 weeks ahead of my life. That's just from a works habit more than anything. So like from a work point of view, I'm managing what's going on in 2 weeks' time. So I think I just implemented that into my running. So I know what I'm doing for work for the next 2 weeks. So I'm like, great, that's a long day there. So I'm probably not going to be able to fit a long run in. I've got a free day then. Do you know, you juggle, you move things around so that I'm not doing like a long day on the hill and then having to go and do 20K in the evening, do you know, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm doing, loops around, I don't know, French fields or whatever instead. So it's managing that, like it's managing time. Like
so you're really, basically looking at you run your own business. It's worth saying that, Adventure in UK.
Yeah,
and that's, you do everything from rock climbing to gill scrambling to guiding people up.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
Up the fells.
Yeah,
and you do some challenges too.
A couple of bits and bobs.
So, but it is a full-time job.
Yeah,
it's a full-time job. So it's about, what you're saying is it's about you looking 2 weeks ahead and figuring out what days you've got off that you're not working, and then going, that's the day that I'm running.
Yeah,
that's my long run day.
Yeah, I can fit that in. I can fit
and then the other days that I'm working 9 to 5 or whatever you end up working that day, I've got to get up at 3 to go and smash this run out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because it's consistency.
Yeah.
I either do that or I do it at night.
Yeah,
I'd rather run to daylight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the nicest bit is I know it's going to get lighter.
Well, your day's always better when you
Yeah, 100%.
in the morning.
You've got it out of the bag. So it's just consistency, isn't it? And like how bad do you want it, I guess?
I think I want to touch very quickly on nutrition, and then I've got a couple of, I think like there's potential to talk more in depth about training in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's a couple more things I want to ask you about.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the things that you said to me about nutrition was, which I have, because I think in today there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, when you're talking about training and nutrition, is like bodybuilding styled, people will say, well, if you want to lose weight, you go in a calorie deficit. If you want to put weight on, you're 15% more, you bulk, you load or whatever. Calories.
Yeah. Calories.
Hard one to say when you're in mid-sentence, isn't it? So, and then, but when you're training like this, one of the things that you said to me, which kind of made me go, oh, that makes a lot of sense, was look at it like you need your daily intake of calories.
Yeah.
So if that's 2,000 calories a day, you need to consume those calories, and then your running calories are separate from that.
Yeah, they're on top.
Yeah. So you're fueling for running as well
100%.
as just so your heart can beat and your lungs can work. And
So you've got your normal calorie intake for just living, if you like, and then if I'm going out on like a long run, for example, then I know that I need to consume more for that, because that's my fuel, if that makes any sense. But it's like separate from your normal calories. Because obviously, like, you don't want to be you're going to probably be in a calorie deficit anyway, but you don't want to be in a massive calorie deficit, because your body will go into like compensatory measures. So if we don't eat a lot, we get tired. If we're dehydrated, we get tired. It's your body's response to not having enough to keep going. Do you know? So, what I tend to do is I sort of have like my normal day-to-day food. So I'm doing a run tomorrow, so I will consume more tonight to compensate for that run tomorrow, and I'll consume more during the run. And so like, you really want to make sure that you're consuming enough.
And do you stick to a certain type of diet?
No.
Right. So you eat as
Fucking
you
everything.
feel like eating.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
So, like, obviously, like, it's balanced. So I'll eat like my veg and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I've got a good balanced diet. I'm a carnivore by dietary choice, and that's my personal choice. But I wouldn't say I stick to any diet. I have a balanced diet.
You're an omnivore.
Omnivore. I'm omnivore.
Carnivore would just be eating meat.
I am. No, I just eat meat.
But
Steaks.
Omnivore is you eat veg as well.
And veg as well.
Yeah.
I'm an omnivore. Every day's a school day. So I just eat I'll eat loads, but I'll eat if I'm going out, I don't know, if I'm going for a big run, like tonight, I'm going to have a big bowl of pasta and some pizza and that. But I've got no, like, it sounds really bad, but I've got no, like, I'm just not very consistent with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I lose interest in it really quickly.
So what I'm getting, like, I'm a geek.
Yeah.
So I'm always studying this stuff. So that to me sounds like if you're going to eat pasta and pizza tonight, that sounds like you're eating a lot of carbs.
Yeah, because I'm going for a run.
So you're filling your glycogen stores up.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go and burn them off
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
And I'll burn them off. And then I'll recover. So I'll eat obviously, like, I will burn calories tomorrow for sure.
Yeah.
I'll be in a deficit massively.
Yeah.
But then, like, I'll eat during the round, which maybe they're not always necessarily calorifically high foods, but they're mostly carbohydrate, energy based. But as soon as I finish, my part of my recovery will be to replenish what I've lost.
Okay.
So, like, and your recovery needs to be like as consistent as your training.
Yeah.
So I'll come back, I'll eat, I'll stretch, I'll rehydrate. I'll probably take a cold bath after I've had a shower, and I'll consume probably I'll obviously sleep tomorrow, but like certainly for about 24 hours after my round, I'll consume as much as I can.
You just
not
enjoy.
as a pig, but like I'll be eating well to give my body what it needs to aid recovery. But also I'm working Tuesday, so I need that calories in me to keep going. So, I don't know if that answers the question or not.
No, it totally does. You touched on something else there. You said cold bath.
Yeah.
What's the crack there? What's your... Because I did a thing where for about 2 months, every morning, I had a cold shower.
Yeah.
And it was like more of a mental health thing.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I started feeling a little bit like tired through the day. And I was like, it's probably because you're having a cold shower. I was listening to all these American... and then it was like, hang on, it's like minus flipping...
Yeah.
You walk the dog in the morning, you don't really need to get a cold shower.
Yeah, I think it's such a hard one.
But for recovery,
the science, I think, backs it. I think it does a lot. If you look at like professional rugby players, they come straight off of a training game or training day or a game, and they go straight into cold baths. So from like a recovery point of view, I think it helps with things like swelling. Obviously, helps to flush out any lactate or anything like that.
Yeah.
For me, that's probably like the biggest two. It reduces the swelling or inflammation in like your muscles and your legs, particularly. for me, the bath is really good because if in reality, sometimes if you get in the lake, the temperature's the temperature.
Yeah.
I can't affect other than taking a piss. I can't really change the the temperature of it.
Yeah.
Do you know? Whereas the bath, it's like a little bit too cold. Then I can add the hot tap. Do you know what I mean? I can regulate the temperature a little bit.
So how does it look? You just literally fill the bath up with cold water?
Fill the bath with cold water, and if it's too cold, put some hot water in, and then I'll just sit in it for 5-8 minutes.
So you need to be able to sit in it for 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I think it needs to it's no point in you getting in it and it being like, oh, this is lukewarm. It needs to be cold. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be like when you get out, you're like, shit, I'm pretty cold. And like we've got quite a big bath, so I can like submerge myself to about here. So I'm covering my core as well. Yeah. So my whole body is just getting this massive. And I think I did it after my Steve Parr.
Yeah.
Less so keen on it at that point.
Yeah.
I'm
already in pain. I'm miserable.
Kirsty had to like spot me into the bath. I nearly needed to short rope to get into it. Actually, to be fair, that's a whole different conversation. But I think it definitely works for sure, and I think that maybe the science backs it. Yeah, and I think that's really important. But I also think there's a bit of a placebo effect. I've done it for so long that, and 5 minutes is not a lot. I know people that go in like the lakes and rivers for 20-30 minutes, whatever it is. I do amazing. 5 minutes is just a snap of the finger, isn't it? But the placebo is for me is like, I've done my recovery thing.
So yeah. It's more of the routine. And
that's it. It's a habit.
It's like also it's part of the finishing. It's
a wrap up, isn't it?
It's done.
Yeah. I don't go downstairs and just sit on the sofa all day,
which brings me nicely on to Kirsty.
Oh yeah,
because you told me something. The reason that I'm doing this, that I was like, I need to start recording these conversations that I'm having with people, because I have the most amazing conversations with people like yourself, and I'm always like, I'm so selfish. Like I should be sharing this. You told me about the night after the Steve Parr round.
Oh, fuck. It was just,
And I was like listening to that. And that's when I went to David, who's going to come on here. And I was like, what is that? Like, why is she supporting him to do that? Like, it's like, I understand why you're doing it, because I enjoy the pain.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, Kirsty's not an ultra runner. She doesn't know, she doesn't understand what it feels like to be in that place that you're putting yourself through running.
Yeah.
And then
she's doing it.
And then she's like supporting you to basically self-harm.
Oh yeah.
In like
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like.
So my question, I suppose, here is first tell us what happened that night, because it's quite humbling, but it's also quite funny.
It's quite amusing.
And then tell us what happened that night, and then tell us your perspective on how it works with you and Kirsty, how she feels. Okay, it's like a feeder. Those people who like feed people to become really fat. Yeah, Kirsty's basically allowing you to.
Oh, massively. Yeah, she probably just does it because she's sick of hearing about it. So the first thing, so I had decided before I even set off, there was no way that I was sleeping in my bed that night. Like, I was sleeping on the sofa. The sleeping bags, the pillows, everything was already on the sofa before we left for the round. So we got home. I'd had a little bit to eat, but I was like everything sort of just comes crashing in, and all of a sudden, you're sitting in the car and you're like, I am really tired. And I chatted away to Les, who's in the back, but we're all sort of it's probably 4:00 in the morning at that point. Kirsty had been awake for a long period of time. Les had helped out with legs and waited around, and which we finished. And everyone's sort of ready to go to bed. We've wrapped it up. We've achieved everything. Through the back door, sit on the sofa, and I'm literally lights out. There is a picture of me asleep on the sofa. We've got the fire on. It's dead cozy. I've got 4 sleeping bags because I just stripped off because I was so wet. I just stripped off. So obviously immediately I started losing body heat. But anyway, I'm in my sleeping bag, and then I don't know. I think probably about 9 o'clock or so, I woke up and I was like, I'm really hungry. I am. And I had this weird craving for Kellogg's cornflakes. Yeah, but they were, and I think it's because I knew they were in the kitchen, and like the kitchen's not far. So like by this point, everything is like my legs, everything's like swollen. I had like basically I just had like a leg with no foot. It was all like one thing. I don't know. It's just one mass of tissue. And like without an exaggeration, it took me like 20 minutes to go from like lying down to being in a position where I was sitting on the sofa. It was really, really uncomfortable. And then I stood up, which was really uncomfortable. And then I took about 4 steps into the middle of the lounge, and then everything just stopped working. Like, it was fucking mad. Like, neurologically, there was nothing from here to my legs. And like, I don't know if
you're still stood up.
I'm stood in the middle of the lounge, by the way. I couldn't be any further away from anything to help me. Like, my table's over there, the kitchen's over there. The sofa that I've just done a massive walk from is like 5 or 6 steps behind me. And I was like,
massive, the massive is just run 120 miles.
And like I'm now stuck in the middle of a sofa. Yeah. And like so I was saying to my legs, just step, just move. But there was fuck all happening. There was no reaction from my brain to my legs. And then I was like, irrationally, maybe not rationally, but I was like, I'm fucking paralyzed. Like that's it. I'm paralyzed. Like, any minute now, I'm going to fall and I'm going to bounce and like, I went through this weird process where I was like, that's going to kill me. That's going to kill me. That's going to kill me. Kirsty and Les are upstairs asleep. They're never going to know. And then I just started crying. I have no idea why, but I just started like crying. And I wasn't like blubbering, bottom lip going and all that. It was just water was coming out my eyes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got no fucking idea what is going on with my body right now. Like, and for someone who's quite like considers themselves quite mentally robust, that is a weird thing to go through. Like, I now believe that Steve Parr has possibly paralyzed me, and also apparently I'm crying, which I don't do anyway at all. I can't remember the last time I cried other than that occasion. So like, Kirsty must have heard something, and she's like, come downstairs, and she's like, I think it's really important to understand right now that I'm like fucking balls naked in the middle of the sofa. I'm still covered in mud. Like, I look possibly the worst human. I look like I've just come out of like a fucking homeless shelter. Like, Kirsty comes downstairs and she's sort of like, what are you doing? And I'm going, I just want some Kellogg's. But I couldn't say it properly. Like, and in my head, I'm going, I don't know why I'm doing this. I've got no idea what. And I was going, I can't walk. And Kirsty just walks over and she like literally puts her hand on my shoulder, and all of a sudden I started walking. And she puts me back on the sofa. She's like, right, what do you want? And I've sort of chilled out a little bit with the tears. There's like a little puddle by my feet where I'd been there for about 5 bloody minutes. Like, and she goes and gets me a thing. And like, there's this whole thing of like, I've never had it where my legs just decided that was it. Like, there's no more. And like, all the world in the world, I was like, you will move. You are going to move. Like, I am going to step. And it was just, even if I sort of went like that, they weren't going anywhere. It was it's such a, and I've chatted to other people who have done similar things, and they're like, yeah, your body's just said, nah, that's it. Like, we're stopping here.
We are done.
Index.
And you didn't plan for that when you were stood with James on Grisdale Pike, was it? You said, and you were like, next time I'm here.
Yeah, no, so
you didn't
never thought,
meditate on that.
I never thought that when I finished the Steve Parr, I might possibly believe that the Steve Parr round was the reason I'll never walk again. Do you know, like, I genuinely went through like the most irrational thought. And that's scary because I've never known that, I've never had that side of me before. And I think like, not to sort of like go all like deep and meaningful, but like I didn't know that about myself. I didn't know that was a possibility. I've always believed that I'm quite a robust person, quite strong mentally. So when my brain or my body's not reacting to my brain, I was like, this is fucking horrific.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out what that is, because I've heard other like stories of ultra runners. I think like Courtney Jewell as well, where she just went blind.
Yeah, right.
Like she just her eyes just stopped working.
James had a similar thing where like he was in the toilet or something after his Wainwrights. Not a toilet, in a lounge, something very similar, where he was like, oh, I was walking around the house, I felt great. He said, and all of a sudden my body must have just hit a wall. And he just said, oh, I've stopped.
It just stopped
working. I can't remember exactly what he was telling me. It was something along those lines. And I asked him and he was like, yeah. It was amusing in the context that like Kirsty's never seen me cry.
Yeah.
Least of all believe that I'm paralyzed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like in the middle of the lounge, I'm going to bounce off that.
Because you're a very like methodical. I imagine like predictable like
100%.
guy. Like you say you're getting up at 3 o'clock to go for a run. You're getting up at 3 o'clock to go for a run. You say you're going to eat pasta and pizza tonight.
That's exactly what's on the menu. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. So like then all of a sudden you're in the middle of the living room crying.
Yeah,
she must have been like,
what's going on with my boyfriend? Like, what the hell's... You know, she's just watched me run 190k and enjoy it. And then what breaks me is standing in the middle of the lounge. Do you know, like...
So that brings me on to, like, how does that work between you two?
Oh, my God.
Because you guys have got, like... By all accounts, you guys have got something... Like, without Kirsty... You could do it without Kirsty, but without Kirsty, you would really, really, really struggle because she is like...
Yeah,
she supports you through it all.
She's the backbone of everything, I think. Like, you know, she's number one support crew. And she's like... It's a really cool thing, isn't it? When, like, you know, I said earlier about... I just gave her my phone at the start of leg 2 and was like, I just knew that everything would figure itself out. And like, she sort of like just allowed me to get on with what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And she's quite she's like quite a caring and nurturing person. And like, I did worry a little bit of like, if I went into one of those checkpoints in shit state, how she would deal with that. She's a nurse. So like, you know, she's naturally quite a caring and, you know, she's a compassionate person for sure. But I think that like she just knows how much it means, and she's probably got like a view to sort of like these things that maybe people will never really get to see, and that like how much time and how much effort and how much like I try and put into these sort of things. You know, she'll see me getting up in the morning, she'll see me, you know, I'll be sitting on the sofa, we're meant to be watching Below Deck or whatever it is that we're watching, and like I'm sitting on the phone looking at the route or whatever, and I think a little bit of it is that she gets this chance to like see how much it means, but also I believe that, you know, like she just takes it so seriously. It's amazing. Like, she ran that whole round. Like and I don't think she got much more sleep than me.
So she was like logistically getting everybody.
Oh, she was so good.
Like, making sure your food was ready.
Unreal. Like I literally, leg.
So I suppose it's like she knows you best.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So she knows you intimately, so she'll be able to know like when you rock in.
Yeah,
he's in
exactly what I want. Yeah. Well, like, and we've chatted about it and things like that in the rounds and stuff, you know. But she just knows me really well, and she just smashes it out of the park every time. She's like so good at that sort of stuff anyway, and I think that because she knows how much it means to me, because she sees everything else that other people don't see. Like even James, you know, yourself, other people who know me really well and who I'd consider to be, you know, close friends, still don't get don't see how much I've put into these sort of things. And it's not that anyone else, not to say that other people don't, because I know that everyone does as well. It's just that for Kirsty, it's me, do you know, like, and yeah, absolutely. Like people, like, someone else said that the other week. It was like, oh, you probably would have been able to do it. And I was like, nah, not a fucking chance in hell.
No,
not a chance in hell. You need to have, you need to have support. 2 lads set off to do a solo unsupported winter Steve Parr round and got 3 legs in without the support. So it just shows how hard it is without the support. Crew is such an integral part. So yeah, she, without a shadow of a doubt, like, and not even just that, but like when I got home and like my whole world is falling apart, she was there. Do you know, like she's got to see that. It's all fun and games, isn't it? Like Jack's crying and thinks he's paralyzed and all that sort of shit in the middle of the sofa in the lounge. But she's got to see that, do you know, and like she put me in the bath, and like if I never went upstairs for 2 days.
She'd be worried sick about you.
Oh, she thought it was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
She like put her hand on my shoulder and I started walking. It's like Jesus Christ himself. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like,
I fixed it.
But I never went upstairs for 2 days. Do you know? Wow. Like I never went upstairs because the idea of walking upstairs, it could have took me 10 minutes to go. If I wanted to go to the toilet, she helped me up. Like up and off the toilet as well. Do you know? Like, wow. So it's like all of those little things that actually really are massive. Do you know? Yeah. Like, and she's probably like, you know, everyone was integral, but she was just on it.
That's my thing. So when I've done ultras before, I've had somebody there to support me.
Helps so much.
Waking up in the night. Do you realise you woke up in the night screaming?
Yeah.
You were cramping up. I'm like, I can't even remember that.
Yeah.
So like, the next one that I do, I'm going to be on my own. So
I'm
like, right, how am I going to manage this alone?
You got to,
Tinder.
What are you going to do someone else?
Find someone quick. No. It's like, how am I going to manage it alone? And then that's another part of setting yourself up to win.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that part of that prep, isn't it? Of like,
because I've got to get up the flat stairs.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
but it's only 45 miles. It's not 120.
Yeah, but it's all relative, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, you're still going to
run
you're
quicker.
still going to like still be sore. Do you know what I mean? It's still going to be like,
But back to having somebody there. When you guys met, you were already doing this sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think like when we first met, because we met just before COVID, Kirsty may or may not have believed I was talking total shite. And then when COVID disappeared and we were all allowed out, I think she realised quite quickly that I might have been underselling myself a little bit. So I did things like T-Round and Bob Graham and like various other bits and bobs along the way.
She thought you were underselling yourself.
Yeah, I think she was sort of, when we chatted about it, she's like, I knew you did it, but I didn't realise to the extent that you did it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you were being humble.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm going to go for a run. And then she's like, well, how far have you run? And you're like, I've just done like 50, 60K. And she's like, oh, grand. What are you doing tomorrow? Same again. Do you know, like, so yeah, absolutely. 100%. And like, she's been, I guess, like through that whole process of training and, you know, she's sort of been really like integral part of that. And she's almost like sort of, she's just that little bit that people maybe don't always get to see, do you know?
Yeah, she's seeing it all. Well, this is why I wanted to get you doing this.
Yeah.
Because I get you for, like, I've had you for nearly 2 hours.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah. I get you for, like, maybe 45 minutes, an hour every now and again. And I thought, well, if I can do this with you, I get to know that a bit.
Just share that
more.
bit.
Yeah.
People don't always get to see.
And I think, like, the thing of learning about how Kirsty approaches it with you as well is really important, because she is literally seeing it all. Because we only ever see, like, when you're watching people training or you're watching podcasts about you only ever really hear like, oh, this is how I train and this is what I did. When actually, like, there's this whole like network of support.
Oh yeah. It's like all lots of little cogs.
Like, you listen to like the David Goggins. He's started now talking about his partner.
Yeah.
And it started to make me think, this guy's not like they call him like the hardest man in the world or whatever. But actually, he's got support of a good woman.
Yeah, 100%.
Or partner, if you want to call
friends as well.
Yeah,
you know
friends, partners. It's very important.
100%. Yeah, you can't. I don't think you'd be able to do it without help. And that's not just like, you know, Kirsty. It's all of the like people who are coming out and supporting, but also just the people who are like supporting from home or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Dot watching.
Yeah, dot watchers. Like, you know, like, but like people at the shop and message you. You know, I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't respond. So I never had an idea of like what people were doing. But there was people like from Eden Runners. There was a couple of people. There was a fellow that I've ran with once before that met me at Styhead. I ran with Elsie Davis. He came on her leg and helped out for a little while. And I saw him for maybe the grand scheme of 30 minutes on the whole leg. And then for whatever reason or not, I never saw him again. So I probably chatted to him for 30 minutes tops. This is months ago. And he just met me on Green Gable. And I was like, oh, sweet. And he was like, I'll just come do a little bit with you. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's there's so much more to it than like I think people realise. And like I've always said this about like Groggins and anyone else, there's such a massive more behind the scenes than people get to see. Because I did like an interview for Ultra Running Mag, which was amazing, and Wayne was class. But like they jump on it really quickly, and it's awesome. So like within 24 hours, I'd done this interview. Yeah, I couldn't get off the fucking sofa. Do you know? And I won't lie, Wayne. I was still wearing the t-shirt that I wore for the whole round. Do you know? Like, do you know? So like, That's how like incapacitated I was.
Yeah.
But like it is cool because you get an opportunity to reflect back on it, and actually to even look back on it 2 or 3 months down the line. It's like you remember things that you've didn't really think about during that time. Do you know? Like,
Yeah.
and almost like it's still. I know when you do it so soon, it's awesome. Do you know? Like because it's all on top of your head, but I'm still processing everything.
You're probably still falling asleep and dreaming about being on the trail.
Yeah, 100%. I was still, every time I stood up, I was scared I'll never be able to move again.
Yeah. So I think like when it's so raw, it is good to talk about it. Me and David have talked about doing this 100-mile bike ride.
Yeah.
And then like pretty much the next morning, do this. Sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, like a hot debrief in it.
Yeah, and maybe even do it like have like some lapel mics so that when we've immediately finished, have like a 10-minute just dribbling down the microphone type thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good exercise to do and quite fun in that endurance like sickening way that we've been talking about the whole way.
Gotta love it, haven't you?
Thinking about all the people who are like I know a few people who are like love running, love getting out, want to be out in the mountains more, want to build up. Like I was talking to a friend yesterday and he was saying like, oh, I've always wanted to do an ultra. Like if you could sort of leave somebody with, or leave people with, I don't know, some words of wisdom.
I think like, I was saying this to Kirsty the other day, like if you're not enjoying it, it's so much harder. Like you have to want to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it, and like I think that's really key. That like you can do all of the stuff that we've spoke about, but if you can't smile, you're kind of probably not doing the right thing for you. Do you know? Like I absolutely fucking love it. It's not a hardship. Do you know, I will get up tomorrow and I will go and run and I'll do what I've set out to do. Hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood. But I will still enjoy it nonetheless. Whatever happens throughout the day, I will enjoy it. And like it's so, I think if you're going to go and do an ultra or you want to go and do a Steve Parr and you've done everything you can and you don't enjoy it, you're probably not doing it for the right reasons. Do you know, like, whereas if you can come off it and go, that was fucking ace, then you're bang where you should be. So I think that would be my best bit of advice to anyone. And that's when people like ask me, is like, how do you do it? And like James would say the same as well. And all, you know, all the other amazing runners that I'm fortunate to know is like, they'll say, why'd you do it? And you're like, oh, because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it.
And so, that comes back to what you've reiterated over and over again is keep checking in with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep having those moments where you go, 100%. I know that I'm going to be in pain.
Yeah. 100%.
I know that this is going to hurt.
Yeah.
But also be aware that there's going to be things that you learn about yourself that you didn't know.
If you're thinking of doing 100k and you don't think it's going to hurt, you're very, very wrong. Do you know? Like, so make sure you at least enjoy the shit. Do you know? Enjoy the pain.
Yeah.
Like, because it's going to happen. So you might as well just laugh at it and make the most of it. Do you know? Like, yeah, go and fucking just enjoy it. Like, because it is epic.
Sweet.
I mean, that was good.
So that is it. That's the conversation between me and Jack. I really enjoyed it. I think Jack did as well. He said it at the end there that it was really good. So I'm hoping that we can do it again in the future when he does his next event, whatever that may be. And I would like to speak to more people. So I'm hoping that I can get some more people on to talk to, because I really enjoyed it and I took away a lot from that conversation. So and my training has definitely become more focused since we had that chat. So yeah, really good. I hope you guys take something away from it. Let me know your thoughts and I hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to the next episode. I will see you then.